I was very targeted that game. So definitely felt the brunt of that, and that was definitely a welcome to AFLW. And I had the drawer opening, and she must be sleepwalking in, and then the drawer came out, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's going to go to the toilet. Because at the end of the day, if it doesn't bring you happiness, then purpose or happiness, and then get rid of it. So.
Welcome to episode 1 of the On the Bench podcast. I'm your host, Marcus, and this is just going to be a podcast talking about sports with all different athletes and trying to find out their stories and seeing where we can get up and seeing how deep we can dive into finding out who they are. Today I'm joined with the wonderful Chloe Molloy from the Collingwood Football Club.
Thank you for having me on, guys. Pilot episode, which is exciting.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic to finally be here, and very thankful for coming on.
No, thank you for having me on.
So we're just going to be delving into different things from early life to early career and then throughout, and it's just a bit of everything and a bit of fun in there as well. You know, spice it up a bit, get off the bit of the seriousness, and yeah, go from there. So from the start, I would say, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I actually started playing footy as a young girl. I played Auskick with all the boys, grew up with the boys, knew nothing but footy and that it was okay to play with them. And then went up through the junior ranks, and then it got to a certain point where you didn't play. So I moved on to basketball, and the reason was basketball because I refused to wear a skirt. So in basketball, you can wear shorts. So mum and dad were really good with that. They just footy wasn't something I could do, so moved straight on to basketball. Grew up with 2 brothers, so just came from a very sporting family, very loving family as well. So went up through the basketball ranks, and then it got to a stage where the AFLW was established. So I was coming out of high school, and my goal for basketball was to get to college, and landed there, had the contract, signed the contract, and then the AFLW was established, and I had the hard discussion with mum, so to say, that I didn't want to pursue that career anymore in the basketball. So yeah, chose to put my name in the ring for AFLW, and then came through the NAB League, VFLW, and then was drafted by the team I grew up supporting in Collingwood. So it was pretty cool.
No, certainly nothing better than that.
No, it's like perfect. Couldn't script it.
So I suppose, what was it like having to make that decision where you're just like, this is the thing I really want to play, opposed to something you've worked so hard for such a long period of time?
Yeah, it was actually quite easy for me to make that decision, because it wasn't something not something I wanted to do, but for me, footy was, my first passion, my first love. And it's quite unique, because with the NCAA, if you don't go at a certain time, then you don't really get a chance to go again. So once that door closed, it literally is probably never going to open again for me. And that was something I had to risk. So I gave up kind of a sure thing in 4 years of college basketball for a gamble. But it was actually one of the easiest decisions for me to make, because it was something I was passionate about and I wanted to do, and I loved it. And then playing NAB League, it just re-sparked all those, happy memories that I had playing footy with the boys that I grew up with. So I was like, I can't let that opportunity slide more than the college one. So yeah, in the end, it was actually quite an easy decision for me.
Your heart was just truly with it, and once the opportunity came, you knew exactly where you were going straight back to. Exactly,
and I've made somewhat of a career so far, so hopefully just keep going. And I think after my first season, mum gave me a hug, and she's like, I've never seen you look happier in yourself and just the way you play than I have in basketball. And yeah, I think it was a bit of relief for her when she saw me and I was actually decent at footy, that giving out the college scholarship wasn't as bad as maybe what she thought it'd be. Yeah,
well, I mean, you've certainly made a name for yourself in the league already from the very start, so...
Yeah, hopefully keep going, keep creating a legacy.
So with going with that, obviously from a junior age, would you only say there was any big major highlights that, growing up, you're always winning best and fairest or competing in that sort of stuff, or?
We're very competitive. Molloy is very competitive. I think in the juniors, with the boys, I fourth runners-up best and fairest. Well, not runners-up, fourth best and fairest, which is probably the biggest highlight in that. Got a few participation awards, which I'll hang my hat on those. But in the basketball scheme of things, when I used to play in Whittlesea, I'd win a lot of awards, but my mum was a very good netballer, and she actually would undersell herself. She used to win freaking best and fairest, like premiers, everything. And as kids, she'd actually bring the trophies home, and we were in bed by the time she got home. She'd leave them on the bench for us, and we'd wake up and go, "Oh, where's the trophies?" And she'd give them to us kids. And I actually asked her about it, and she said, "Oh, I think that was actually really, really probably toxic for you guys." And she goes, "I actually got to a point where you expected a trophy when you played, that I actually stopped getting the trophies, and if I was to win something, would get a plaque and a photo." So us kids, because we kind of got into habit, like, oh, mum's got back from netball, you have a trophy, you play sport, you get a trophy. So that's probably been ingrained since then, is that, like, you don't have to play to be, the ultimate best. We play a team sport for a reason. So yeah, I have along the way had some individual accolades that have, I can probably at the end of my career look back on and be like, oh, that's actually really, really cool. But there's nothing that stands out so far, like in the juniors, fourth best and fairest was the best I got. So I'm happy with that, and I'm happy with where I am now.
That's only better than anything I ever did. So. That's all right.
Except for this podcast, it's gonna explode. It's gonna go off.
At a club level, I was the best clubman, and that was about it.
Hey, hang your hat on that. Did you get free beers or anything?
Oh no, nothing like that. I was a bit too young for that one, but it's certainly on the shelf still. So growing up, obviously, being a massive Pies fan and all that, and I assume obviously you're going to say your favourite player of growing up would have been a Pies player.
Dale Thomas. Yeah.
Just straightforward. Absolutely loved every part of his game. And
yeah, I think his hair was a point of difference, and the way he played was real flashy and sparky. And I actually, he bought out with his line of shoe, he bought out a specific shoe called it was his shoe that I was like, I have to get it. They were gold and white and black, and I remember I used to absolutely flog them. Absolutely loved him, loved his shoes. Never wore number 13, but I thought the number was pretty cool. So he was the one that I grew up loving.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I mean, he was certainly, a star at Collingwood for such a long period of time, and then once the hair came off, it kind of went down a little bit. Also going to Carlton.
Yeah, I was going to say, the hair in Carlton, that was when he kind of went off.
So with that, a lot of players will say that they've emulated like a kicking style after their favourite player. Or would you say that there's anyone that you've taken the way you play, like as an inspiration to follow the way they are, or?
Probably there's no individual player that I compare myself to. I appreciate athletes and what they can do, and I always constantly want to be getting better in my own ability and skills and knowledge of the game even. So there hasn't actually been one athlete that I'm like, oh, I want to base my game off them. It's kind of taking and using a lot of resources to kind of build the athlete I am and build the person I am. My dad is quite a good footballer back in his day before he decided to have kids. He says that he could have made it to the AFL, and we'll never know. But he helps a lot with some few pointers. And I think my family are my biggest support, but they kind of just let me run my own race. And I'm blessed to be at Collingwood, and they've got some great coaches there. Yeah. So, you rub shoulders with Bucks, and everyone's open to helping you. Nick Maxwell, so people I never thought I'd only see them on the TV. Now I get to walk past them in the corridor and, have little small 5-minute conversations with them about the game and little things that I can do better. So there's not an individual. I think that I use a wide range of athletes from any different codes to kind of base my game off and like that.
Just doing your own thing, and you got this massive support crew behind you, and that's
yeah, exactly. And I think that's what helps me achieve and be the athlete and the person that I am, because I've got a great support network behind me that believe in me, which it shines back on me, and I believe in myself and what I can do.
Yeah, no, you can't ask for much more than that.
Nah.
It's the perfect way to go about it.
Exactly. So, because I can't fathom there's people out there that play, girls playing footy is not normal.
Yeah.
Not normal. That's such like an old, outdated saying now. That don't have family support, and like I have heard a couple of stories of that, and I don't know, I guess I'm like, I just don't understand how your family can't support you, or friends or loved ones can't support you. So for me to have it, I am very grateful that I have people that are like, yeah, if you want to play footy, sure, go ahead. So,
yeah. No, it's good that we're at that point in time where it's just like girls can just keep going, and it's finally good to see. And you're obviously going to keep getting better people, players coming up. I mean, we've seen how much the game's already evolved from the first season to now. Just the overall skill set's just such a higher standard.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's worked out perfectly.
Definitely has.
So moving on to, just around the playing career, after your choice has been made to finally start coming to football.
Yeah.
So the first time I ever actually saw you play was the Women's VFLW Grand Final in 2017.
Does this Damo Darabin? Eddie had? Yeah. Yeah, Damo Darabin. Quite a rich rivalry there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, it didn't click. Sorry. Yes. No. Of course. So I just remember, because we were obviously there to watch the Richmond VFL Grand Final afterwards. But it was always good because Mum and I have always been a massive supporter of everything, and we would always watch the exhibition games on TV when they were on before the league had come into it. Yeah. And we're there watching that game and all that, and then that was when pretty much just in front of us is when you got hit early on and copped the shoulder injury.
I sprained my AC joint.
And what was that?
It was so painful. Like, it's just the joint within your shoulder. It stings. Like, I know it's only a sprain, but it's like such a weird muscle to sprain. Yeah. That hurt like a big arch, for a better word.
Yeah. Yeah, I just remember because it was virtually, right in front of where we were sitting, and you got up and then kicked the goal from that one as well, and you kept going on for as long as you could before it was kind of just. Yeah,
for Darabin rolled us, and then it hurt because I came back on and I had it strapped up. Yeah. I remember one certain player decided it would be a good tactic to try
go after
that shoulder, but each to their own on that one.
Of course, no, I certainly know all about that one. But it was just like the commitment from you, and then it's like still having a decent game after, because it was pretty early on in the match where you copped it, and as you said, it was really painful. So, but it was just like Mum and I were just like, she's gonna make it. You can definitely see herself making this league, and here you are now, and it's just. Even after the game was done, you're coming around all through the ground, high-fiving everyone on the side with your shoulder all strapped up and all that in the sling. And
you got a good memory.
I do.
Very good memory.
I also remember having a shot after the siren, Ben Lennon a shot after the siren in the game afterwards and missing.
I do remember that one too.
It's a day to I can't really forget. So.
Remember, forget if you want. Yeah.
Yeah, but so going from that, obviously that's just before you ended up here. So going from that, and what was the draft combine process like to leading into after that?
So because that was a grand final, and obviously last game of the season, obviously. Then combined, I think, was only like a week after that. So I actually didn't participate in the combine. And I think it was the first year that they actually had a combine for the girls. So it was at Etihad, Marvel, if you want to get sponsors. And it was just a weekend thing, and we did everything like that our counterparts in the boys would do, to kicking, goals, like skills, workshops, had everything the same that the boys had had. So, but the NAB, we had it on the weekend, and it was really exciting because it was a chance for me, although I didn't participate, I could sit back. And I actually think the first top 3 Victorian picks didn't participate in, myself, Izzy and Mon. We actually all sat back out of that one, nursing injuries. So it was good for me personally to sit back and watch what was going on, and it was kind of exciting to see, being exposed to the Interstate girls and going, oh wow, like there's some real talent out there, and it was almost like this season's going to be on, and then I could only imagine what the other combines have been like. And as we've seen, the game is evolving, skills are getting better. So yeah, it was awesome to be a part of the first one. As much as I would have liked to, participate and be in it, I couldn't. But it was, I think that was like a real push forward in women's footy.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's all part of it. I mean, it's a good process, and it gave you a chance to see all these new girls that you've never really come up against in the local competitions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It was an experience to see something new. So then going from that, obviously the big thing before the drafts and all that are your pre-draft interviews and all that. And over the last couple of years, we've been hearing some really strange questions and all that clubs would ask players and what they would do in certain scenarios. So with that, I want to ask, what would you say would be some of the strangest ones that you copped?
The strangest one I copped is actually the boys probably get asked weirder questions than we have, and I think along the years, coaches just add little questions in there just to test the players. But I think the weirdest one I got was like, "What's the biggest trouble you've been in?" And that was it for me. But yeah, I wish I was asked a strange question because I'm like a bit of tongue in cheek, so I probably would have been a bit cheeky. But I think my answer for the biggest trouble, I was like, lied to Mama. I'm a goodie. Like I am a goody two shoes in the sense that what people don't know doesn't hurt them. Yeah. So in perception, like I'm a good girl, and Mum thought I was a good girl. So the worst I'd done was lie to her, which I think impressed him. I ended up getting drafted. So
yeah, no, I mean it paid off.
Yeah, no criminal record here.
Exactly, you can't really go wrong with it. So then with that, on draft day, going through the emotions, what was it like?
Yeah, it was a weird day. Like, it kind of, like, thinking back, it just, like, all unfolded so quickly. I had, like, once again, talk about my support network. I had, my family there, one of my close friends, one of my uni friends that I went with. So it was like a big build-up towards it, and I think the hype around it was because my name, Izzy's name, Mon's name, like that was all what was being circulated. And the night prior, the Western Bulldogs had told me that, we'll call you, or Wayne, we'll call you at 7 o'clock if we're going to choose you. And I was so like the night before, I was like waiting, just like on my phone, and then it got to like 7:01. I was like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen. Like maybe was that a trick or was that like just to test me? But so behold, Izzy was the one that got the call at 7 o'clock. But leading up to it, it was really exciting. But I was actually torn between what polo I was going to wear. Diamond Creek wanted me to wear theirs, and Calder Cannons wanted me to wear theirs. I ended up wearing the Calder Cannons one. But it was exciting for me. It was, and when my name got called out, the college thing kind of probably came back up in that, like, it was almost like a sigh of relief, like, all right, Chloe, like, you've made it, like, the decision to give up college has paid off now. Mum can sleep easy at night, Dad can sleep easy at night now, knowing that, I have made it, and because all they want is their kids to be happy and doing what they love. And being called out to Collingwood, I can still like replay it in my head, and then got given a jersey. We went up and got all interviews, and I was with like all the first round draft picks, and it was just a really enjoyable day, and it was nice to have my family there. And then we came into the Holden Centre and had the first look at it. It was something that, like I speak about reflecting back, I'll probably finish my career up, and when asked the same question, maybe when I'm 30 years old, like what was your first draft day, like maybe some more memories come to me. But it's something pretty special walking into the club that you've been supporting growing up.
No, for sure. And I mean, you're always going to remember it.
And I hope I always remember it.
But it's going to, be a special place, always sitting with you forever.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and then with that, having your name, obviously you're a talent. Dog said they might make the call and all that, so you knew you were going to go pretty high up. And then having your name called out at number 3, what was that feeling like? Obviously, imagine it'd be, really overwhelming, and it's especially, your childhood club as well.
Yeah. Well, I think like everyone externally was like, oh, Molloy Huntington, and I think as humans we always kind of undersell ourselves and in a way kind of put ourselves down. And I was always like, oh, nah, like, nah. Like, that's just external noise. That, like, who knows? I've only just started playing footy back. Like, so when I didn't get the call, I actually started doubting, like, I might not even get, like, picked up. Like, everyone's thinking I'm going to be, this round 1 draft pick. I'm going to be the biggest flop ever. Yeah. You start having those thoughts that run through your head. And it's like, those flip photo, like, that you can flip through. I, like, started flipping through, like, oh, my God, I should have gone to college. I should have done this. Maybe I won't get drafted. Oh, I should have kicked this goal in this game. Then maybe I would have. So they all start flicking through your head. But, yeah, like I said, it's a massive relief when, my name did get called out. And then to have Chloe, Molloy and Collingwood in the same sentence, in a sense of that, we're selecting you to play for us, is for a better term, it's really cool.
Yeah, no, for sure. I can't only imagine. And again, it's a dream come true after something that you invested everything in. So
yeah, threw everything at it, like gave up the college scholarship for it. I mean, it was my choice and I wouldn't ever change it. Even if I didn't get drafted, I don't think I'd change it. So yeah, threw everything at it and it's paid off for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's an experience and it's something you do through life, that you make all these decisions, and it's obviously going to pay off and not pay off from time to time. But
yeah, exactly.
In this circumstance, it's
paid off for me.
Exactly.
I'm content with it.
Exactly. So with that, why the number 2? Where did that all come from? Obviously, mentioning that you would have, like, the 13, never played underneath it. So where did the 2 come from? So
I grew up playing footy in the number 5. Because Nathan Buckley wore 5, and my dad was good, still is good friends with Bucks, and he wore 5, so I just wore 5. And then when I got drafted here, Emma Grant had number 5, so I couldn't wear 5, and I was like, oh, well, a 5 is just a 2, a 2 is an upside down 5, so I was like, oh, I'll wear number 2. And then Alicia Eva was the coach at Calder Cannons. She wore number 2 previously before she went off to the Giants. So, and I thought, I like single digit numbers. I'll come in and I'll kind of like, let go of the past and make my own, it's kind of like restarting in a way. And yeah, so I chose 2 because it was an upside down 5. That's the story behind it.
It's a way to compensate with it. So yeah, why not? And
now I've made it my own.
Yeah, and it's a special piece. I mean, we've obviously all got our special numbers growing up. So for me, it was always 20 for if our marriage. So that was always someone that was special to me. So
and it also means if someone wants to put their number on my back, it's only going to cost them half the price of a double-digit number.
Can't complain with that one at all. So then moving into, obviously, sorted through all the pre-draft stuff, and then getting eventually into the playing career. Pre-game rituals or superstitions, everyone's obviously got something to them. So
yeah, well, I started off my short young career having a couple of superstitions. I used to actually sleep with the footy, I think in my first season, which is quite weird. And then I would wear blue undies every game till I lost them. And then I was like, oh, well, I've got to get rid of that superstition.
Start fresh.
Exactly. So that was 2 weird ones that I used to do. But then I kind of outgrew, I think I had a workshop just with one of the sports psychologists here going and explaining superstitions and how sometimes, it works for other people and it doesn't work for others, and that, there's pros and cons, obviously. And one of the cons was that, what if it goes wrong? What if something happens, you can't find the footy or can't find your blue undies in my instance? How are you going to respond to that? Yeah. So I took that as like, oh, that's actually, that's a very fair point. Like, we can only control what we can control. Sometimes things happen. So I went away from superstitions in that sense. But, little ones that I've got now would be, like, I'm pretty OCD. I clean my boots the night prior, and my mouth guard, because my quote or my saying is that, look after the tools that I use, and that's a mouth guard and my body and boots. So that's a little superstition I have. A gnocchi bolognese before a game, and I bring a banana to a game. Nice. So they're all things I can control, unless Coles comes out with, no banana stock, then I'm up shit creek.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But yeah, that's my superstitions, not superstitions.
Yeah, no, it's completely reasonable. So at that point, when was the first, like, I mean, I imagine it probably would have been draft night still, but, or round one, but it was just like the realization that you've like well and truly made it to where you want to be and all that.
Yeah. I still don't think I have had that satisfaction or content on where I want to be. I'm still like I'm 22 and I speak as if I'm 30 sometimes. Like, oh, that kid back, whole 2 years ago. But I do look back at my first season and go, oh, I was so young. Like, my physique, even like I was still such a kid in a women's sport. And I don't think maybe I need to like lower my standards a little bit, which I don't know, maybe I'll do, maybe I won't. In that I don't think I'll ever kind of be content. I'll always develop, and I think there's so many ways I can continue to develop into a better athlete. And, whether I do that at Collingwood or whether I explore somewhere else, I just don't think I should ever put a glass ceiling on myself and feeling content in where I want to be. I mean, of course, there's goals and you need to stop and smell the roses, because we don't set goals to then just achieve them and move on to the next thing. You need to take that time to be grateful and show, oh, look at the journey I've had to get to where I am. But if like feeling of round one was probably a goal of that, it felt like I belonged in the AFLW space, and that this was a career that I could make my own, and I could actually be good at it. And so round one was a sense of not content or fulfillment or anything like that. It was like a hell yeah, like this is the start of something for me. And then just continued on. So yeah, there's no glass ceiling for me, and I probably should, like I said, lower my bar, but I don't think I'll ever be content and fulfilled in who I can become, because I think there's always room for growth.
Exactly. There's always motivation to improve and become, a better player and
exactly.
Just keep going up.
Yeah.
So then with that, obviously round one and all that, what was it like just walking onto Icon Park for the very first time in such a big game as well? Yeah,
so I was actually at the lockout the year before. Yeah. And I remember sitting there with some of my Dynamo mates going, oh, I don't want to be on this side of the fence anymore. I want to be playing. And I had a sense of jealousy, like, or I envied him. I was like, oh, I can do what you can do. Like, why can't I be out there? So running out for the first time, like, to take it all in, like, I actually wish I had stopped and taken it in a little bit more than I did. Even though it wasn't another lockout, it was a full packed stadium. And it's actually quite funny. You get into a game and then you just forget about everything. Maybe if we won, it would have been a better experience, but we didn't. But for me, seeing like a packed stadium for the first time, that was the most eyes I'd ever had on myself. But I was like, it's like a switch flick for me. I was like, just game mode. Like, I was in the back line and I was like, don't let a single goal go through, beat your player. But it was very euphoric that night, seeing the whole stadium, and then being able to spot out my family was probably the cherry on top, because we play, at the end of the day, we play for ourselves, but we also play for that support network that got me to where I was.
And knowing that they're there, it's just like...
Yeah, it's heartwarming. Yeah.
I know, for sure. And it just, gives it that extra bit of confidence, and just like, I guess the endorphins, where you're just like, you're really happy that, you're out there for one, but then you've got your full, family supporting you, and they're just completely behind you.
Special, very special.
So then moving on to what you would say is your first welcome to AFLW moment. By that, I mean, when we're talking in basketball terms, a hard screen or something like that. So like a big hit where you've just been absolutely driven into the ground or something along those lines.
My welcome to AFLW was against Fremantle in my first season. It's not a nice term, but I was bullied that game. I copped a hit off the ball by a certain player who ended up getting a week. I was very targeted that game. So definitely felt the brunt of that, and that was definitely a welcome to AFLW. And they say take it as a compliment. But yeah, I remember one contest where I think I tried to take the player on the mark on and unsuccessful in that, and they grabbed my jersey, swung me around, so I dispersed of the ball, but then followed through, and then that player actually got up and stood over the top of me and started pointing at me, and God knows what was said. And then the ball actually came back into our space, so while she was having a go at me, the ball was laying here, and then it was just a massive fight. And then I remember one of my players coming in, grabbing the jerseys, and it was just like, and then she got done for rough conduct. That was definitely my welcome to Aflw game against Fremantle off the stadium.
Can't forget it.
Nope.
I guess with that, then it's like, how, from obviously the circumstances you were copping that, how do you find dealing with a tag in that sense?
I'm still working on it. Like sometimes it's more probably a mental game for me. Fitness is something that'll definitely help me with that. I hate running, and I probably need to change that attitude. But some could call it arrogance. I go into a game thinking that there's not a single player on the field that could beat me. That's just the mindset I go in with, and I obviously understand I am going to lose contests, but that just puts fire in the belly to win the next one. So I'm still learning how to shake a tag. I think that's something that will come with time. Being in the midfield, I think I played a couple of games in the midfield, but being in the forward line, just having that extra player, I'm still adapting to how I do shake that. So I'm no expert in it at the minute, so that's a work in progress on that one.
I mean, it's pretty safe to say you've got a lot of time to work that one out.
Yes, plenty of time. Fingers crossed, touch wood, plenty of time to work that one out.
So then, leading on with that, toughest matchup you've found so far, whether it's been in the forward or back or just anywhere on the ground, really?
My toughest matchup was probably not this season. My first season, I played in the midfield in the last game against Adelaide. And it's like, I know it's a name that's thrown around, but it's thrown around for certain reasons, is Erin Phillips. She was just so strong and was so hard to move. And it was like my normal, getting around a player, but like one hand on her, one hand that she's got on you, and it's like you just somehow get wrapped up. Just her strength and her ability, like she's just an athlete. Absolute elite athlete. So she's been the hardest matchup in the midfield for me and across my AFLW career so far. I
mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to say the exact same answer.
Yeah,
so
probably.
That's not exactly one to really go wrong with. So I mean, she's just an absolute
beast.
Freak of nature. Literally.
Freak of nature.
So then with that, the team you always look forward to playing against, that one team that you've always got, you feel like you pull out your best every time that you're up against them.
I feel like Carlton, I play, it's probably because I get excited about the rivalry. Probably Carlton's the team that I play the best against. I think it's just a rivalry that sparks in me, and it's exciting and fun, and you just know that you're going to have an absolute crowd there, and every hit's going to be hard, and both teams are going to make each other earn the footy. So Carlton bring out the best in me, I would say.
Can't really go wrong with it. Of course, I mean, rivalry's always dating back to, watching the games growing up and now getting to play in it yourself.
Yeah, and I think we've created our own rivalry within the women's space too, and it has stemmed from the boys, but it's
got its own little
to it. Yeah, definitely.
So then going all the way back to year one to now, how would you say your game's evolved from Chloe from season one to where we're at now?
The first season was kind of just the baseline for me, and I've actually it's hard to compare because I've gone from the back line, being injured, to playing in the forward line, back, wing, mid. Like I was thrown around in my third season, but my second season playing due to injury, and then this year forward line. So it's actually quite a tricky question to answer because it's hard to compare a back line compared to forward line compared to the middle. But I feel like my sense of the game and picking up on ball movement is getting better. Although like the game is evolving too, so that's even harder to pick up on. But how would I compare it? I'm a lot skinnier. Yeah. I think my standards are a lot higher, and having certain players come into the team have lifted that. So my attitude towards running and gym and the recovery side of things, that's probably the biggest thing that has changed from season one to now. So just my approach to things off the field are probably the biggest things that have grown.
Yeah, I mean, again, as you said, you've gone from the defence to the midfield, the forward line. It's like
apples, oranges, and strawberries.
You've got this whole range of you're able to play and have an impact in every single area of the field. So,
thank you.
I mean, you can do it all. So
I try.
You can't really go wrong with it. So then, since becoming a football, the most difficult change you would say you've had to make to, I suppose, really day-to-day life, or just the way you've gone about things? Or
yeah, I'll wait for that plane to go. The biggest change for me probably would have to be putting my professional career on the back foot. Just because I came out of high school, went straight into Aflw, and normally, like, out of high school, you look for a full-time job. And I mean, not to say that I couldn't, but I wanted to invest a lot into my footy, and I wanted to, I hopefully, I might not see it, but in a decade or so, that hopefully the Aflw is a full-time thing. So that's probably the biggest thing that I had to change and get my head around, was that it was a decision in the end, but I put my professional career and development on the back burner to focus on footy. I did have a part-time job. I was studying in my first year, so I've got a part-time job as a receptionist right now. I mean, it's not where I want to be. I do some special comments with Fox Footy, but I don't really have like a Monday to Friday full-time job that has a steady income, because AFLW only get paid 6 months of the year. So that's probably the biggest thing that I had to get my head around, was that, okay, if you're going to choose to play footy, something's got to give. And for me at the minute, it's just probably my professional career in the sense that it's not footy. I could have been full-time commentator, a journo, or a content coordinator or something like that, but I can't do that because I want to be part of a sporting club. In that, if I was to do that because I love my sports, but I can't play footy on the weekend and then also go do that for a basketball game. So that's probably the biggest change.
Yeah, no, that's completely reasonable. I mean, it's big, and obviously not being a full-time thing, you've got to work out other things to do to obviously pay the bills. Yeah,
pay the bills for the other 6 months that we don't get paid for.
So with that, obviously the massive love for the club is, supporting from such a young age and to now, and then playing, captaining the club in the future. Is that something you would love to see yourself making that extra step? Or
I actually never been asked this question. Maybe as I came in, I was like, this young kid coming, like, I want to captain Collingwood one day. This is amazing. Like, how awesome would it be? But my approach to it's more so now that, like, captaincy will happen in itself, and leadership doesn't always need a title. And for me, I'm probably more of a situational leader in that my actions do a lot more talking, and that's just the way I approach it. And leadership, that's cool. There's a practice. I know. That's Collingwood doggies tonight. But leadership is something that I think I'll, work on, not loosely, but footy, I want my footy to do the talking. And if leadership is something that comes with that, and captaincy is something that comes with that, then so be it. But it's not something that I've solely put a lot of energy into, and it's not a goal of mine that I want to captain a side. Because, like I said, I'm more of a situational leader rather than someone who can do the talking and whatnot.
Just, telling people to fill in the holes and where to stand and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, you like not to compare us to the boys, but you look at a player like Dustin Martin, who just happened to play last night against Carlton. He doesn't have any form of leadership against his name, but he's a leader in himself, and you can see how much respect he has from the team and the boys because of what he's able to do. So he's earned respect from the way he approaches games and the way he can play, and I think that's kind of what that's my approach to it all.
I mean, I guess with that, no caution last night, and you can see when the game was pretty tight, and he just comes out breaking like 2 tackles. And
Exactly. Who stands up? So that's kind of the player I want to be.
Yeah, it speaks for itself. It's leading from the front without actually.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, spot on.
Because it virtually ends up being a captain's goal without
having the title.
Everyone's up and about, and you get the crowd behind you, and all that. So then, obviously, last year we had the pandemic come and hit quite hard, and changed the world that we know today. But playing the last 2 games of the season, that being obviously the last round and then the first week of finals with no crowd, how was it for having such a sudden just died off completely to having absolutely nothing?
Bizarre. Like, we were up in Brisbane, my family were up there, a couple of other girls' families were up there. And we got told that they couldn't come and that it was going to be fenced off and no crowds. So that was something that I don't think any team had ever had to do before, men's or women's. So we went into that game like, all right, we've got to build our own energy and our own vibe because there's no crowd to do that. But in saying that, there was like, it's obviously fenced off, and there were still people along there, which was kind of cool to see. My family went and watched it with my godfather. But yeah, it all just like came to an abrupt end. We lost to North by 2 points in the first week of finals. So we all went off and had celebrated the season with a couple of drinks, and we were at a pub, and it was like we're getting, checking through the Instagram, and then all of a sudden Nicole Livingston's head pops up, and it's like, oh, the AFLW season is cancelled. And then we were there, and then it was like, we need to get home because you're not allowed to be out anymore. You can't have over 30 people. So like the police ended up just coming in to check, the capacity. Like now that I say, I was like, how bizarre is that? We've never had anything like that. So yeah, it came to just an abrupt end. And then from there it was like, COVID hit, and it was like everyone inside, like you can't socialise anymore. And then it was no VFLW. So yeah, it was quite a depressing, dark time for a lot of people, sporting people, and also just, everyone, like worldwide, nationally, because it was a pandemic, a dark time for a lot of people. So, running out this year, I think I said it in an interview at the end of the game, like I'm just so grateful that we have got it back, because for so long this is what we wanted. So now it's finally here, and I spoke about stopping and, smelling the roses. So I was like, it just is amazing to be back here with the crowd, because it was, at the drop of a hat, taken away from us. Yeah,
and back where you want to be in front of your home fans. And
exactly. Beating Carlton, I think we did in the round 1. It was bloody beautiful.
All fell into place. So then moving into, well, I guess it kind of leads into the next sort of subtopic and all that, but the hardest part of your journey so far through playing and all that, I mean, I think I probably know the answer, but...
The foot injury? Yeah, I'll go away from that though. I think the hardest part is probably the pressure I put on myself.
Yeah.
I'm really, really hard on myself, and I have an expectation that I've got to perform every week. And in my first season, that was something I was able to achieve. But like, I think I had a coach here say, you're not invincible. Don Bradman had a couple of games where he scored 0 runs. Now look where he is. It's okay. Because I just want to be the best. I want to compete all the time. And they say, obviously, sometimes your biggest strength is also your biggest flaw. So for me, I would just put so much pressure on myself to get out there and perform. And like I said, I want to beat everyone out there. And I know that's not impossible. Like, I can't do that. So that's the biggest challenge. And I'm still working through that. And I've got resources here off the field to help me do that. And in sports psychologists, and I'll put my hand up and be like, that's normal. That's okay to go talk to someone about how you're feeling. So yeah, besides the injury, which I think is a cliche kind of answer, the mental pressure and stress I put on myself has probably been the hardest thing to deal with throughout probably the last 3 seasons.
No, I mean, I find that completely relatable. I mean, I was playing local footy, and it was just like, obviously you want to strive to make the team and all that, and it's just every little kick that I just mess up, it's just like, shit, that's so much pressure.
Yeah, I know, like, oh God.
And then because you're so frustrated, you make more mistakes, and then it goes down this spiral. And
yeah, it's a spiraling thing, which is what I've been working on, like with the psychologist is like, you know, one thing happens, like, all right, can't do anything about it, but just got to move on, which is easier said than done. But
no, I mean, it's good when you've got these resources that are now for footballers, and it's just like one big family, the support that you've got from everyone at the club to, you know, allow you to be your best and get to where you want to be.
Just adds to that support network.
Exactly. So then now, obviously, moving into the injury, you know, from having such like a dominant first year in the league, coming, you know, winning the Rising Star, coming second in the best and fairest, to then copying what you did with the foot fracture, it's obviously such a dramatic fall, just like at the click of a fingers, you know, and you missed the next season. What was that like for you going through that whole recovery process, rehabbing, and then how was that to take a toll on you mentally as well?
For a better word, it was shit. It was like so bad. I had such a good season in my first year individually, and after I was like, oh, you know, I'm going to be what brings this team to the next level. And then, in the VFLW in the finals against Geelong, suffered the Lisfranc injury. Yeah, I mean, I had kind of put all my eggs in one basket, and footy was my everything. And I invested all my energy towards footy, and then it was like, well, that's gone. Like, where's that energy going now? So I had to invest it in other areas. And when you're injured in a sporting sense, you're damaged goods, and when you can't do what you're paid to do, you just become a number. And I probably lost a sense of who I was, and because I couldn't play footy anymore and I wasn't, you know, associated with playing football. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to get that, you know, endorphins from playing footy anymore. Like, where else am I going to find happiness? And so I actually, my grades, my school grades will probably show you that. Like when I was studying, I invested more in my studies, in my friendships, in my family, and that's what ultimately got me through that really dark time, because you start to question if you'll even get back to being the player that I was. And even now, like sometimes I still have those doubts. It hasn't given me any grief, but injuries for an athlete can send them into a really dark hole, and you feel really alone sometimes. And I probably am grateful that I had the injury when I did at such a young age, because I think you can either let it define you, or you can kind of grow from it and learn from it. And I think that's what I've done, and that was the silver lining for me. Yeah,
and you just get to learn how to cope with these things from a young age. It's not just going to hit you late in your peak sort of thing, and it's just something you've got to deal with. And you know, if it was to ever happen again, you're a bit more prepared for it.
And I think I've got more of an understanding and can be empathetic when, you know, someone else suffers an injury in sport, because I've kind of been through it. So it also in a way makes me a lot more relatable to others who have gone through something like that.
Yeah, no, that's completely understandable. Obviously it was just such a dramatic injury, and you know, I mean, it kept you off your feet for
literally
quite a while.
Good pun.
But I mean, because like obviously, you know, going through and trying to get everything so I can sort out my questions and all that, you know, what was it like when you first had you were able to like properly take your first few steps again, you know, with the boot off? And
I cried. I cried because it was just so much emotion built up, and you know, walking was something I never thought I'd be able to do again. So to finally be able to do it, I think in that moment I just cried. I just was happy, sad tears, a lot, because you know, my calf was non-existent. It was a struggle to walk, put weight through it was a struggle. So yeah, just a lot of built up emotion that came out in the form of tears when I finally could walk, and then kicking a footy again. And it was just like little steps to building myself back. You know, all these things that I doubted I could do again, I had done I was able to achieve. So yeah, very, very emotional.
Yeah, and then with that as well, the rehabbing process for something like that, because it wasn't exactly the term obviously Lisfranc. I was not something I'd exactly been familiar with, and
neither. I had no idea what it was.
So so what was the whole rehabbing process like through that as well?
So it was like non-weight bearing for months to let the ligament heal, and also I had fractured bones as well. So it was a cast, which was the bane of me, and I had to obviously have crutches. So getting up to go to the toilet in the night was just a pain in the ass. So like the process went from wearing a cast to having a moon boot with 2 crutches, but no weight through it still, but I could wear a moon boot. Yep. Obviously having surgery too. I had 13 screws put in it. So I had surgery in a cast, non-weight bearing, and then had to go through it all again because I had to get all those screws out. So surgery, cast again, boot with crutches, boot with 1 crutch, take the boot away, 2 crutches, 1 crutch with a boot, bring the boot back. It was tedious, definitely very tedious, and it's such a, obviously we need our feet to walk, and I was right-footed, so I couldn't drive either. But yeah, it took a lot of, like, I had to build up my quad strength, my glute, like, it's just a flow-on effect when you injure one part of your body. My calf was gone, like, that was muscle atrophy, had just done its job there. The quad and the hamstring, and then, like, obviously needed to balance myself back out. But yeah, it was a long process in back walking again, driving, getting movement through it, then obviously having the impact of a ball on it too. I remember I dropped a bottle on my foot, and it just sent like the biggest nerve like wave through my leg that I just was like, oh my God, you know when you hit your funny bone? Yeah. It was like that, but times 10. So it was a very tedious process. As I said, you could probably rewind and go back, like boot, crutches, boot. I've lost track of it. I just remember boots and crutches being the absolute bane of me.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's a long process, and, you know, such a dramatic injury, I suppose, it's going to take its toll completely. And
oh yeah, physically and mentally exactly. It did.
All right, so moving on from obviously such a, I suppose, darker
yeah.
thing, on the somewhat final stretch, go into a bit more of the fun ones, I guess you could say, you know, a bit more lighthearted. When talking about the club, you know, your team itself and all the girls and all that. Start off with what you would say would probably be the best interstate memory on a trip you've had with them.
Best interstate memory for me would be when we flew to Perth. One of my good friends in the team, Ruby Schleicher. I was with her rooming, and because she's a Perth girl, so she caught up with her family after the game, and I was tucked in bed, and she'd come in, and then I heard the drawer open, because it was like, you know, queen bed, set of drawers, queen bed, and I heard the drawer opening, and she must have been sleepwalking, and then the drawer came out, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's gonna go to the toilet in the drawer. And anyway, I like woke her up, but that has to be probably one of the funniest things. I was like, Ruby, what are you doing? She's like, what do you mean? She's like, oh my God. I was like, yeah, go to the bathroom. So that has to be probably one of the funniest memories interstate of
always
interstate
definitely
travel.
Live that one and never let it.
Never gonna let her live it down. No
never
way.
Gonna hear the end of it. No, I mean, it's different. It's a different one.
It is a different one.
So then with that, who controls the music on the match day in the rooms?
I controlled it last week, and I had a lot of good feedback from the tunes that I was dishing out. So, but Britt Benici controls it. We all have an input. We all put a song in, and then Jen Plum, who's our team manager, creates a playlist. But for me, if I don't like the song, I'll just go up and change it. So I mean, in a way, you could say, I guess I'm a little bit in control of the music. We all have an input. It's a team effort.
So then with that, is there anyone that's not allowed to go anywhere near putting anything into the playlist at all? Because
anyone who wants to listen to country music before the game,
just not allowed.
Chuck some headphones in, please.
That's it. That's the one thing that's off limits.
Yeah, and slow music, like, and words with no songs, like, you know, the big doof ones, like the dirty songs. I'm like, there's no
substance.
Where's the words?
There's nothing.
Where's the words? But yeah, probably not one person, but anyone with those ones.
Just feeling like a bit of country music. It's just
chuck your headphones in, please. It'd be much appreciated. Yeah, exactly.
And then with that, obviously, you know, I imagine everyone's got a really close bond together. You know, it's like one big family. But who would you say would probably be your closest friends within the team?
Ruby Schleicher is probably the one that I am the closest with. We've got quite a unique friendship in that she's a Perth girl, so she goes home in the off season. We don't, we'll talk here and there, but once she gets back, it's like nothing ever changed. And we actually used to play basketball together.
Yeah.
She played for WA, I played for Victoria. So we were friends, throughout that, and then she was drafted here before me, and then I came here. So, yeah, she's probably the one I'm the closest with, just because we're quite similar in some aspects, and yeah, I feel like she understands me, and she's very good for me, and vice versa.
Yeah, it's a completely fair answer, obviously, and it's good having someone that you've come across, and then you're coming around at roughly the same time.
Yeah, it's funny how we never would have thought back when we were playing basketball against each other, we'd be playing in Collingwood together.
I know, especially as you said, investing everything into basketball, and it all just comes, I guess, full circle. And
it's weird, and bizarre. The world works in weird ways sometimes.
And now you've got a story of her attending going to the bathroom in the drawer. So
exactly.
So then, with that, moving on to I suppose more I guess personal in a sense that just opinions and takes on certain topics.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, I suppose you would say the criticism of women's football has gone down a fair bit since season 1. Obviously, unwarranted. It's just people that just don't understand and completely unnecessary, and it was just way over the top with how people treated the sport, especially in the first couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
But how would you deal with the criticism of the league through all that, I suppose, with seeing people like that coming up? And
I think you're always going to have people that love and hate you, no matter what. We're not, women's footy's not everyone's cup of tea, and that's fine. I'm not asking everyone to like it. I think people abuse social media and the fact that it is such an open platform and you can express your opinion. We're all instant journos these days because you can just put it out there, and sometimes there's not a consequence in putting something out there like that because it is just so freely. But I actually thrive off the criticism, and I think the best way to handle it is just going out there and playing. And it's more investing energy in those that love the game and want to come to AFLW, and the families that rock up every week to support us. It's more investing energy into them and almost saying, cool, you can have your opinion because everyone's entitled to an opinion, but we're just going to choose not to give it oxygen. And that's what my mum's always taught me. She's like, don't give toxic people oxygen, and then you don't give them reaction that they want. So for me, I purely just ignore. Sometimes it's hard to ignore, but I don't think I let it really affect me because I'm just in this world, people are going to hate you, people are going to love you, and it's just, what you choose to do that, whether you bite back at the people that hate you because it's obviously their opinion's not going to change on it. So yeah, I'm probably a bit on the fence with it in that I won't ever probably publicly call someone out. Everyone's got things, issues and trauma that have shaped them to be the person they are today. So yeah, I'll never judge someone, and like I said, everyone's entitled to their opinion, whether it's good or bad. So
yeah, because I suppose, as you see, everyone's with social media, instant journo and all that. It's just now we're in a day and age where players are just getting these DMs and all that, and it's just ridiculous, the stuff some people go to just out of their time out of their day just to literally just abuse someone, or just put it on someone, and that's it.
Yeah, I'll just delete
Going straight away.
Yeah, gone. Don't even need to give them what they want.
So then playing, playing obviously in your playing career, and then continue with all that with social media and all that, and obviously just wanting to clear everything and delete whatever you see. Has it ever been a point where it's taken a toll on your mental health whatsoever? And because it's just been or obviously days where it's just you're obviously not having a good day, and it's just you see one thing and it's just that's enough, and it's just sitting you over that edge and whatnot.
There have been comments on photos. Obviously, people, I have a public profile, so people can just put out their opinion there. And Twitter's probably the biggest. Is guilty of it. But it probably comes back to my support network in that the only people's opinion I care about is those within that circle and bubble for me. So whenever I do start to stray off and be like, oh, this is what they said, I've got people there being like, Chloe, like, don't worry about it. Like they've seen maybe one incident or something like that, so don't stress about it. So I'm one, and I'll say fortunate that it hasn't ever affected my my mental health, and that's probably because I have things set up to probably never have that happen to me, where that it does affect my mental health. And touch wood, I hope it doesn't happen to anyone. But yeah, I think I've got a good setup behind me, that if there is an opinion that gets to me, I've got 5 other opinions to counteract it.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. I mean, that's something you would never wish upon
anyone, no.
But and yeah, and Twitter is obviously, I mean, it's a platform I absolutely love using, but it can be easily one of the most toxic by far within any sporting code, or literally anything in general. It's just one of the worst platforms, that's for sure.
Yeah, couldn't agree anymore.
So then, after your playing career, once everything's all said and done, and obviously got a long way to go before we realistically probably see that happening, where would you like to see yourself after that?
With a family, I probably just go straight there. I see myself with a house that I've built from the ground up, or obviously maybe renovated it. But yeah, I see myself just with a family and with a partner.
Yeah.
Just enjoying life. Yeah, that's probably where I see myself.
Yeah. Just nice, relaxed, nice family oriented.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know where this world's going to take me, but I do hope by the end of my career, or even during the career, that I can start up a family.
Let it take its course and just be happy by the end of it.
Exactly. Ride the roller coaster.
Exactly. And then moving on to probably what would say would be the final statements of everything. Obviously, we've got the new rule changes in the men's, the 2 very controversial ones at the moment. Stand, yes, that one stands out more than anything. And obviously the new sub rule that's just come in the other day as well. Sub. Is that something you would potentially either one like to see integrated into the women's sport? Obviously, you've got the last touch rule that's exclusive to the women's at the moment. Is that either of those something that you would care for, or not really a fan of either way?
The AFL have got their reasons and purposes behind why they introduced them. We're all armchair experts over here saying they shouldn't or shouldn't do that. Personally, I hope they aren't introduced in the AFLW. I haven't seen my purpose of them in the game yet. It's continually changing. So I like nothing against the AFL, fully supportive of what they do, but I would hope that they aren't introduced into the AFLW space.
Because I just asked that because it's like hearing a few things that they're looking to bring, like the stand and all that, into like your local competitions and all that. So it's a matter of time before, if it's to be integrated. But then obviously you've got the last touch rule that's exclusive to women's football at the moment.
Which I think helps. Like the rules that we've got in place so far, maybe at the start we thought they were a bit crazy, but they are helping the game evolve. Probably my one thing on the rules is I just wish that there was a standard across either men's footy and it's all the same, and the women's footy it's all the same, so there's no confusion coming up through the ranks. It's all just, standard for everyone. Yeah,
because you've got the umpires that it's like, obviously...
Oh, it's hard for them too.
Yeah, exactly. They cop a lot of abuse and all that, but it's like they're changing, a lot of the times they're just changing the rules every 2 seconds, and it's like you can't...
How can I adjudicate something when I'm like, I don't even know what the rules are going to be.
It's one thing one year and then it's something else the next, it's a completely different, circumstance every year. So with the last one, before we wrap it up here, advice for younger girls. Advice for younger girls, and what's something you wish you knew back then coming into the competition itself?
Yeah, I think it's advice for anyone really. Like it's not gender specific. But my advice, like I would say, if you're not happy in something, like why stay in it? And something actually, like I'm listening to this podcast at the minute, and it might not apply for younger kids, but it's the mindset I've got, and excuse the swearing, but it just adds emphasis to it. if it's not a fucking yes, then it's a no.
Yeah.
If you don't want to do it, then there is absolutely no one forcing you to do anything. So, and that comes back to the decision I made to give up college. Like I said, it wasn't a hard decision because it wasn't what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
AFLW was something I wanted to pursue, so I just went and did it. So, yeah, that's, I'm not going to say it again. If you want to go back and hear what I said, for sure. But yeah, if you're not happy in something, I don't think you should ever be forced to do it. Because at the end of the day, if it doesn't bring you happiness, then purpose or happiness, and then get rid of it. So that's probably my advice as a general stock standard to anyone. It's
certainly a good thing. I mean, if it's one of those things where if you really want it, then go and get it. Just throw everything at it. If that's really what you want to do and that's what's truly going to bring you happiness, just
go for it. Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, that's about all the time we've got for today's episode. I'd like to say, Chloe, really appreciate you for coming on today's show. And,
thank you.
Yeah, stay tuned for more in the future and we'll go from there.